For today's video, I'll be sharing my Honey Gourami care guide. These are my favourite fish, so I may be a little bit biased, but my goal is to help this amazing species gain more popularity in the hobby while helping people provide the best care possible. So let's start with some basic information about Honey Gourami. These fish have evolved in the slow-moving waters of northeast India and parts of Bangladesh. These habitats experience huge water parameter fluctuations seasonally due to the annual monsoon season, and they usually have low levels of dissolved oxygen in the water. To adapt to this, the Honey Gourami have developed a labyrinth organ which allows them to breathe atmospheric air from the surface, much like their cousins, the Betta fish and Paradise fish. Adult Honey Gourami usually reach a maximum size of around 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters, making them an excellent choice for smaller aquariums. Honey Gourami can live for up to 6 years under perfect conditions, but anything over 3 years is generally considered a good lifespan for this species. Moving on to appearance, and I do want to take a little bit of time on this section as it is an area that people often get confused. Now, there are a few different varieties within the Trichogaster tuna species, and there's also some fish commonly mistaken for Honey Gourami that you'll definitely want to avoid. So first we have the true Honey Gourami, with males having a yellow colour, and they'll develop a black breeding jacket during the mating season, while the females of this variety usually a pale silver to grey colour with a dark horizontal line down their side. Next is the gold sunset gourami, which is the variety that I personally have. Males develop an orange tint in their tails and fins during the breeding season in a patchy black breeding jacket, while the females are usually a soft pale yellow colour. Then there's the wild type Honey Gourami, and these are more difficult to identify because their colours can range quite a lot depending on the specific fish you get. Personally, I do believe all three of these are part of the Trichogaster tuna species. However, it's unclear whether they look different due to being part of different selective breeding programs, or they are simply different natural varieties within the same species. Outside of those three, there's also the red Honey Gourami that is likely a hybrid or a variety of the thick-lipped gourami rather than an actual Honey Gourami. These fish can be aggressive, so ignore the signs in pet stores that say these are red Honey Gourami. Another lookalike is a selectively bred variant of the 3-spot gourami. These are yellow and sometimes mistakenly assumed to be Honey Gourami, but their vertical body stripes are a giveaway, so you can identify the differences between them. But keep in mind that this particular fish can get as large as 6 inches in length and become aggressive when it reaches maturity. Now, I know that this may seem daunting if you are new to the hobby, but most reputable aquatic shops should easily be able to make sure you get a Honey Gourami or a gold sunset gourami to avoid any problems in your tank. Moving on to tank setup for Honey Gourami, and the first thing to note is that they can jump, and unfortunately I learned this the hard way. Ideally, choose an aquarium with a well fitted lid if possible, but if you can't use a lid, lowering the water level by an inch or two can help reduce the risk of them jumping out. Now, there is some debate about the minimum tank size for Honey Gourami, with most sources recommending anything from a 5 US gallon to a 15 US gallon, or 19 litres to 57 litres. While a single Honey Gourami can technically be kept in a 5 US gallon or 19 litre tank, they are a social species and appreciate some company. Personally, I'd recommend that you keep at least 2 in a 10 gallon tank or 38 litre tank, because their behaviour will drastically change when there's another Honey Gourami in there. This lets a species show off their playful side, and it is very entertaining to watch when they play with each other with their modified ventral fins that look like hands and arms. I did initially think that one of my Honey Gourami was a female, but it did turn out to be another male, so to date I've only kept multiple males together. But unlike other species of gourami, other than some light sparring and chasing, they tend to interact in a playful way rather than displaying actual aggression to each other. Currently, my Honey Gourami live in my 40 gallon community tank filtered by a Fluval FX2 canister filter, and they can handle its flow at about 75% of its maximum output without any issues. If you are keeping them in smaller tanks, I'd recommend a small hanging back filter or a sponge filter, as their gentle water flow is well suited to Honey Gourami, and I link to some recommendations in the description. Honey Gourami are ambush predators, and they do seem to like to spend a lot of their time hiding away in the plant cover, hoping that a small insect will swim by them. In my experience, they spend at least half of the day tucked away amongst the plant cover in their tank, and they'll spy at you through the gaps, so they've always got sight on you, but you might not be able to see them. I've kept Honey Gourami in 3 different planted tank setups now, and they always seem to appreciate plant cover, so I do highly recommend including plants in your tank if possible. If you are brand new to the hobby and you don't like the idea of having to learn about keeping live plants in your tank, then some high quality, soft, widely fake plants can be a suitable alternative, and modern ones really aren't that expensive. But if you are open to live plants, then species like Java Fern, Anubias, Echinodorus and Cryptococcus and lilies are all excellent options for this, and they'll provide plenty of hiding spots. Floating plants can also make your Honey Gourami feel more secure and reduce the chances of them jumping out of their tank. Salvinia, redroot floaters, Amazon frogbit, water lettuce and duckweed are all options that'll work well for this. Although they do spend a lot of their day hiding, Honey Gourami also enjoy coming out to play. Whether they are chasing each other, sparring lightly or just interacting, they do appreciate to have an open swim area in the tank for activities. I've kept my Honey Gourami on a dark inert gravel and aqua soil without issue. However, I have seen some people report that some species of fish can lose their vibrant colour if they are kept on lighter substrates, so sticking with a dark coloured substrate is probably for the best. So moving on to water parameters for Honey Gourami, and I highly recommend adding them to a fully cycled aquarium if possible. High ammonia levels can cause permanent damage to their gills, and elevated nitrite levels can cause irreversible harm to blood cells, reducing their ability to carry oxygen to vital organs. That said, I have previously used Honey Gourami as part of a fishing cycle, but I no longer use that method, and these days I always cycle my tanks before introducing fish. Most sources recommend keeping Honey Gourami in a water temperature between 74 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 to 28 degrees Celsius with a pH of 6.0 to 7.5 and soft to moderately hard water. Although I do recommend these guidelines for your own fish in an aquarium, their natural habitats such as the Brahmaputra river system in India and Bangladesh experience significant fluctuations due to the monsoon season. Research into the Brahmaputra river system, which includes several Honey Gourami habitats, shows ammonia can spike up to 0.35 ppm and nitrite can spike up to 0.71 during the winter. Additionally, the average winter water temperature in this region can drop down to 15.6 degrees Celsius or 60 degrees Fahrenheit, suggesting that Honey Gourami can tolerate lower water temperatures than commonly assumed. This research does seem to back up the somewhat controversial care sheet from Maidenhead Aquatics, which suggests that Honey Gourami can be kept in room temperature tanks here in the UK. Now I know that might not be relevant for everyone, I'm just trying to highlight the resilience of this species of fish and show how they can overcome some of the more common mistakes made by people new to the hobby. So moving on to diet, and Honey Gourami are definitely omnivores and they'll happily eat a wide variety of foods. I've honestly lost track of how many different foods I've tried with my Honey Gourami now, but fluval bug bites form the bulk of their diet, with other treat favourites including bloodworm, daphnia and cyclops. I have noticed my Honey Gourami nibbling on melting plant leaves in their tank as well, and it does seem to just be a random thing they do from time to time. Now there is a chance they were actually eating microorganisms on the leaves, but to me it definitely looked like they were ripping pieces of the leaf off and eating it. One important thing to note about Honey Gourami is that they tend to be shy feeders. They will often wait for the more boisterous tank mates in the aquarium to finish eating before emerging from the plants and coming over to get some food. So if you are keeping them in a community tank rather than a species specific setup, it's a good idea to observe how the different fish species react during feeding time for the first couple of weeks. This can help you adjust your food portions to ensure that Honey Gourami get their share of food after everyone's had their fill. Another thing to note is that my honey gourami are happy to feed at all levels of the water column too, so there's no need to worry about quick sinking foods. The honeys will dive after them and eat them. Moving on to behaviour, and honey gourami are incredibly peaceful and shy by nature. I have seen a few posts on social media suggesting that they're an aggressive species, but personally I suspect those individuals have never kept honey gourami, or they've mistakenly kept one of the other species mentioned earlier in the video. Although my honey gourami do spar with each other occasionally and do a little bit of chasing, they usually just ignore their tank mates and are pretty much oblivious to anything else going on. I've successfully kept them with tiny species like chili rasboras and cherry shrimp, and I've never seen them try and eat or even harass their smaller tank mates once. It is worth noting that I've only ever kept male honey gourami, so their behaviour may change during breeding season, but so far they've been very peaceful and an excellent fish for community setups. So moving on to tank mates, and my honey gourami currently share their tank with neon tetras, cardinal tetras, harlequin rasboras, chili rasboras, corydoras, a Siamese algae eater, cherry shrimp, armano shrimp and neurite snails. I've also kept them with guppies in the past, and they've always been peaceful, keeping themselves to themselves and ignoring their tank mates. I do have a dedicated video about my experiences of keeping honey gourami with shrimp that I link in the description. In short, I've never seen my honey gourami attempt to eat a cherry shrimp, not even the tiny baby shrimplets that could easily fit in their mouth. I've even watched my honey gourami swim right by a tiny baby shrimplet, being in striking distance and just ignoring it and going about their business. Honey gourami are also plant safe, and the only time I've seen them trying to eat plants is if the leaf was already melting and starting to decay, and I've never seen them try to eat a healthy leaf. So based on my experiences, I am confident that honey gourami can coexist with other peaceful community tank friendly fish without issue. So to summarise, honey gourami are a fantastic choice for aquarists of all levels of experience. Honeys are hardy, easy to care for and thrive in smaller tanks, and they'll readily accept a variety of different foods. They can peacefully coexist with other community fish, shrimp and snails, making them perfect for most setups. What truly sets honey gourami apart from other fish is their interesting behaviours, especially the way they use their modified ventral fins like arms and hands to explore their environment. This is why they are my favourite species of fish, and I highly recommend them to anyone looking for a unique, rewarding fish to keep. Anyway guys, that brings the video to an end. I hope it's been helpful. Thanks for watching and have a good day.